All right, guys, we are rolling through the regions here, going through my best tips, my bracket advice, possible upsets, and I was going to move my webcam over, but I moved it over and I got a headache, honestly, so I had to move it back. So we are going to be looking at the Midwest, and I'm going to try and not have my webcam block the teams or anything like that. So we'll try and do that. I was moving my webcam over, and I was like, it's like Inception. I got a massive headache. So I'm going to need to take some Advil or something, but we're going to go through the Midwest this time. That's what we're looking at. And of course, Houston University. So I'm just going to say my piece on Houston, and then we'll move on. Guys, I think there's a lot of NPCs right now that are trying to find a reason to not pick a 1 seed to go far, and the easiest reason is Houston with the Marcus Sasser injury, but people have to understand something. They held him out of that, American Championship game. He was basically 100%. He said he's going to be 100% by Thursday. This Houston team is top 10 in offensive efficiency, defensive efficiency. Let's not overthink this. Let's take advantage of a lot of these casual people who really don't know. Houston is going very deep in this tournament. They've been phenomenal all year. I know they play in a bad conference, but still, guys, this is a team I have faith in offensively, defensively. Houston University. It feels like it's their turn. It feels like it's Houston's turn to win the national championship. So certainly a 1v16 game. Unless you're trolling, you're picking the 1 seed. Iowa versus Auburn. I would lean. This is another, Russian roulette toss-up game. Flip a coin. You're better flipping a coin, honestly, and then going with whatever that is. But I will lean slightly towards Auburn. I think Auburn is a better team. Iowa really finished the season poorly. They were virtually on the 7 line for the last month, and then they played so bad, they actually got knocked down to that dreaded 8-9 line. And I think Auburn, who they lost to Arkansas in the SEC tournament, but it was only a 3-point game, and I am very high on Arkansas. I think they show a lot of promise. So Auburn, good second half there in the SEC. I'll take them to beat Iowa in a toss-up 8v9 game. This is a 5v12 game, so it's pretty remarkable. I believe Miami is 2.5-point favorites, so this is virtually an 8v9, and this is my, 12v5 upset that I am choosing. I'm choosing Drake over Miami. Tons of people are going to do it. Maybe even more than 50% of people might do it. So, Miami plus offensive players, but this is where there's a few different things. Look at Miami's defensive analytics. They're outside of the top 100. That is an extreme red flag. And also, I actually look back to last year and I see a Miami team that made the Elite Eight. I'm not seeing a run like that. I feel like Miami is due for an early exit after making the Elite Eight. So I will go with Drake. They're your typical 12 seed. I mean, there's 3 12 seeds this year that are just on a run. Charleston, Oral Roberts, Drake. Which one of them are going to win? We don't know, but I think Miami's a little overrated for a 5 seed, and Drake, for 12 with the momentum that they have, they crushed Bradley there in their conference championship game. We've got Indiana, Kent State, so I came into yesterday saying I was picking Kent State no matter what. I think they got a really bad draw. If you're an Indiana fan, this is where the start times matter. So this game is taking place at 9:55. If you are Kent State, I mean, that is worst case scenario. I know people will reference the 1v16 upset that happened late at night, but traditionally when we see a big time upset like a 4v13, it's an afternoon window game. I'm telling you guys this, trust me, it is. So I think Indiana lucked out here, but I am still going with Kent State. And then we are getting our classic 12v13 second round upset that sometimes happens when the 2 upsets do happen. So Kent State, they have a guard who's playing amazing right now. They've been one of the best defensive teams all year. They just beat a good Toledo team that I was really high on in the MAC championship. Kent State, to me, has all the makings of this year's kind of Cinderella, when we're filling out our brackets, we have to pick at least one, maybe two Cinderella teams. You know, your Penn States, an Ivy League team, you know, a team like a Kennesaw State. Who's it going to be this year? I'm going to say it's Kent State, so I have Kent State beating Indiana. Indiana, to me, they've got a great center who's a senior, Trace Jackson-Davis. They've got a streaky, scoring guard that's a true freshman. But I'm not seeing it with Indiana. The vibe's off with them, especially as a 4 seed. I think they probably should be a 5. They got a little overseeded there, so I will go with Kent State. And then we've got Iowa State versus Mississippi State and Pitt. Again, guys, I hate the first fours. Mississippi State, Pittsburgh. I'm going to say Mississippi State beats Pittsburgh and then beats Iowa State. I am not high on Iowa State. Although, to me, I'm not really going to be perjured too much because even if I pick Iowa State, I think Iowa State is done in the round of 32. That is their ceiling. And yesterday when I was filling out my brackets, it's because I don't like picking first 4 teams, but I will. You know, I think the strategy here, probably go with Mississippi State if they beat Pittsburgh to go on to beat Iowa State. And then Xavier and Kennesaw State. Xavier got a very, very good draw. Kennesaw State is an extremely weak 14 seed. They're pretty much almost a 15, I would say. You know, UCBS, to me, is a lot more dangerous than a Kennesaw. Who are the other 14s? The other 14. Grand Canyon's bad as well. So is the 14 seeds are kind of weak, I'll be honest. But I will go Xavier. So I'm not high on Xavier. That's just, I think they got a good matchup in a 3v14. A&M versus Penn State is rough. So in my bracket, I did go Penn State. A&M probably should be a 6 or a 5 seed. They played really well in the SEC tournament. But Penn State, they've got one of the best guards in the country. They almost beat Purdue in the Big Ten Championship. That's a really fun 7v10 matchup. And then Texas and Colgate. I'm not picking Texas to go to the Final Four. I just don't think they're a Final Four team. I know they beat Kansas, but I think people are kind of overrating that a little bit. But I do like Texas. Let's be realistic. Let's not get overzealous. Let's pick Texas here, even though Colgate is the team that there is such a good three-point shooting team. That is the 115 seed I would not want to face. They have great three-point numbers. If they start 7 of 10 from 3, look out if you're Texas. That could be the 2v15 upset we always wonder if we're going to get. Looking at the next round, I'm going with Houston over Auburn. You know, Auburn's a decent team. Houston is just more complete. They suffocate you on defense. Drake and Kent State. So Kent State, to me, will be a Sweet 16 Cinderella. I will have Kent State using that Miami win as momentum to then beat Drake. Excuse me. And advance to face Houston. Looks like Mississippi State versus Xavier. By process of elimination, I'm going to go Xavier. I am not high on Xavier. They do not have a good defense analytically, but they do have an elite offense, and I think based on their draw, they can make the Sweet 16, and then I'll have them face... Honestly, I could see either of these teams winning, but I think you have to go Texas there. You have to stabilize it. And then I do have Houston beating Kent State. Kent State's magical run coming to an end in the Sweet 16. I said yesterday if Kent State got the right draw, I would go Kent State to the Elite 8. I don't think they did. Houston is rough. You're not going to beat Houston as long as Houston is healthy, so Houston advances there, and then I am going to have Xavier actually beating Texas. I'm just not buying Texas. There's just something about him. I don't buy it. I feel like they're going to be out in the Sweet 16, and you're going to get Xavier surprisingly making the Elite 8, which I think is a great matchup for Houston, and then I will have Houston, the 3, beating the 1 there, and advancing to the Final Four as the 1 seed overall. So just taking a look at this, we do have a Cinderella in this region. It is Kent State. Really good defense combined with an offense that just scored 93 points. Also, you've got your typical 12v5 upset, Drake over Miami, setting up a 12v13 game. Although I am concerned about that game time at 9:55. I do not like that start time if you are Kent State. And that does matter. It does come into play. Late at night, it's weird. I'm telling you guys, you want that game on at 4:30, not at 9:55. I think if you're a Kent State fan, you have to be very upset. You know, Indiana fans are probably like, why are we playing at 10 o'clock? You should be happy. That is a great start time for a 4 seed if you're facing an upset-minded 13 seed that has momentum. You want to start as late as possible. And then this game, I mean, flip a coin. You could go Iowa State. It's not really a huge deal. Kennesaw State, Xavier. You know, could Kennesaw State be like, oh, it's like Georgia State, you know, that one weird team that no one expects to make it? But I'm going to go Xavier actually advancing pretty far because I think they get a good draw, whether they face, you know, the first 4 winner or Iowa State. They end up going. And then you do have Texas beating Colgate. Listen, if A&M beats Penn State, Texas A&M versus Texas, I think it's going to be close, man. It is going to be a close game, but I am going with Texas either way. Penn State's a fun team. You know, if you want to play it safe and you're not obsessed with, like, I don't know, it does seem like the safe move is to go with A&M. A&M is really thought of highly analytically. Even though Penn State, they've got the sexy guard, they've got momentum, so does A&M. So it's like, and then in this case, do you flip it and do you say A&M upsets Texas and then they face Xavier and then Xavier wins? There's a lot you could do with this bracket, but it's kind of like a process of elimination. I don't even like Xavier that much. I'm just seeing their path and I'm liking it because they do have an elite offense. And if you face an Iowa State or, I mean, this is a great 6 seed to face. Nothing against Iowa State. I just think their offense is really bad and they're not going to be able to keep up with a team like Xavier. That's why I would have Xavier advancing. And then there's just, again, there's something off about Texas. If you want to have Texas, excuse me, like losing my voice. If you want to have Texas, you know, in your Final Four, I really can't argue it based on Texas beating Kansas and playing so well. But what I'm telling people as a bracket wizard, there's something off about this Texas team. They're going to get knocked out early. People are going to be pissed because their brackets are going to be ruined. You're seeing a lot of these people after the 20-point victory over Kansas. They're saying, oh, that means Texas must be the best team in college basketball, and they're picking Texas over Houston. And again, this is something where people are trying to find, oh, what's my excuse to pick against a 1 seed? Oh, it's an injury to their best player, their best guard, when really, if you actually look into it, it looks like he's going to be fine. And we're going to trust that and pray that we can really take advantage of these people who are picking against Houston and just say, we'll take the 1 seed who's been the #1 team in college basketball all year. Maybe you can say, oh, they've ran up those analytical numbers against a bad conference. I understand that. But still, Houston was very highly thought of. You know, they swarm you defensively. They swarm you. And even in the situation like a second-round matchup, I'm just not that concerned about Iowa or Auburn. I think if I'm Houston, I would probably rather face Iowa, but they are streaky. And then here, I think this is great. Indiana, I'm not concerned about them. Miami, I'm not concerned about. To me, the second-round matchup might be tougher than the third round, depending on if you get Kent State or even Drake, if you want to have Drake be the Cinderella and make it to the third round. So that is just my thinking there on the Midwest region as we continue to go through these different regions, dissecting them with tips, predictions, Cinderella teams, stuff like that. But guys, that's going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.